Buongiorno, welcome to the channel. Today we are talking about Vamps, a little 2012 film starring Alicia Silverstone and Kristen Ritter, with several other decent named actors as well. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to be doing a spoiler review, so spoiler alert, as usual, you know the drill. Going to be talking about the movie and things that happen in the movie, including the ending, so you have been warned. If you're new to the channel, basically I just watch a movie and then I sit down on this here couch in this here room and I talk about the film. No script, no edit time planning, just watch the movie, come in here, record with my phone. That's it. Raw, unfiltered, no jump cuts. So sometimes it's a little rough around the edges, but I kind of want to do a very natural type review anyway. So that being said, it might be all over the place, but I'm going to do my best. So you've been warned about the spoilers. Let's get into the film. So we have Alicia Silverstone as Goody, who is a vamp that turned in 1841. So later in the film, we do find out why she was turned, etc., or why she wanted to get turned, or whatever it was. But anyway, she's the older of the two, let's just say, obviously. They have the same sire. In this movie, they call them a stem. But in most vampire lore I read, it's usually called a sire, the one who, like, turns other people into vampires. So they're called stems in this. So when I say stem, that's what I'm talking about. So they have a stem in common. The other vampire is Stacy, who was turned in the 90s by the same stem as Goody. And that's the one played by Kristen Ritter. So they live together in an apartment, and basically Goody has been essentially taking care of Stacy, kind of showing her the ropes for or whatnot. They're essentially sworn off of human blood, so they mainly feed on like animals, rats, whatever, pigeons. But apparently they got attached to the pigeons, so they stopped feeding on those. So it's just rats, which, you know, rats are kind of cute too. What the hell? Anyway. That's neither here or there. They even have a little support group with a bunch of other vampires who are all trying to basically get off of the human blood diet, which, you know, good on them. They're all doing kind of the same thing. Included in this little group is the Vlad. Yes, him. Vlad the Impaler. He is into knitting now. But he's very much sworn off of blood, so that's fun. We have Sigourney Weaver, who plays Cicerus, who is the stem of Goody and Stacy. There we go. And she basically doesn't... most people know where their stems, like their lair is. They can go see them whenever, but Cicerus is a little different. She's a little wilder, a little off the rails. Doesn't really do a good job of hiding anyone she kills. So yes, she's not in this club. She's still... likes the blood. And yeah, essentially she can summon telepathically the two to wherever her location is to make them do menial things. Like at one point they're summoned to help her pack her like hometown's dirt into a suitcase or something. That's part of vampire lore, by the way, stemming back from like old school. It's basically they have to sleep in the dirt of their homeland or something like that. I think that's like one of the lores. There's like a million vampire lores, let's be real. And most sources kind of pick and choose what they want to do. So this one, that is the case. There are other things that don't really affect them. Like garlic's not really a thing in this, although you're led to believe that it may or may not be. Silver, not necessarily. It seems like beheading is like the main thing that's canon in this. Anyway, that's, you know, that doesn't come into play until a little later. Anyway, they're summoned into Cicerus's place, and she orders a pizza only to eat the pizza guy and kill him and dismember him. And he's later found by an investigator and a police team who... This investigator turns out to be a descendant of Abraham Van Helsing. So, yeah, that line is still going strong, and they're still hunting vampires. So that's really fun. He, you know, looks at the neck, obviously, I guess figures out, okay, vampire, here we go. We got a problem here in New York. So that's where they are in New York. Yeah, so they have their little group thing, group therapy. they had, or sorry, no, they went to a goth club, goth night, which is kind of fun because I used to go to those a lot in my youth. They're very fun, and the people are pretty chill for the most part, and the music's good. Anyway, yeah, imagine me as a goth, eh? That'd be hard to do. I had hair like down to my ass and like the spike collar and everything. It was ridiculous, but awesome. Anyway, they're at this goth club, and we meet another character by the name of Renfield. No, not that Renfield, but that's his name. And he is essentially trying to convince Goody and Stacy to turn him into a vampire. And they explain to him that basically, like, we can't, it has to be a stem. Like, I guess that's like an older lineage of vampires that has that ability. So not any vampire can do that. Anyway, he comes into play later on, so he appears off and on in the show. So I guess he's like their human buddy or whatnot. We also are introduced to Vadim and Ivan. So Vadim is a stem, and Ivan is his, I forget what they call it, but the one that he sired or stemmed or whatever. The weed? I don't know what you call it. He's the vampire that got turned by Vadim. Anyway, we find out later that Van Helsing has tracked down Ivan and ends up getting him in the day and throwing him in the sunlight, and you see him turn to ash and like disintegrate and die. So there's an active vampire hunter in here, even though he was not responsible for the death of the pizza guy or any other deaths that may or may not have happened. But, you know, Van Helsing doesn't know this. He just knows vampire, bad, kill, done. Good job. Needless to say, they have a little meeting at their little therapy group or whatever, and Vadim's kind of pissed off. He's thinking, you know, stuff's up, where's Ivan, etc. Anyway, turns out, yeah, Van Helsing. Boom. Good times. All the while, our good friend Stacy is taking night classes, doing like an introspective analysis of filmography or something along those lines. So they're watching everything from like Nosferatu to like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and like all these old like black and white type films. It's kind of cool, actually. That'd be a neat class to take. She meets this young man by the name of Joey, who she takes a fancy to pretty quickly. Turns out she finds out his last name is Van Helsing. So guess what? He is the son of the actual Van Helsing. By the way, Mr. Inconceivable, that's the adult Van Helsing in this movie. So he's not quite the Hugh Jackman built kind of guy. He's like a short, stocky little dude. But he sort of knows his stuff. Anyway, Joey invites Stacy over, and they're kind of macking it up in the bedroom there, and not like full on, obviously, but the parents come in and interrupt, and it's like, oh shit. And Stacy excuses herself, says nice to meet you, shakes the hand, and right away Van Helsing and his wife both know, like, okay, you felt how cold her hand was. Anyway, they have a conversation during dinner, and Joey's like, so what did you think? And they're like, yeah, she's a little pale. And he's like, you don't like them because the color of their skin? And he's like, no. They're like, she's like really pale, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I guess he doesn't really fully believe it initially, but she does end up revealing herself after he ends up kind of ghosting her a little bit. So she confronts him at the school and whatnot, and he right away pulls a cross on her and like throws garlic at her and whatnot. Sorry, I forgot a part. They had invited her over to dinner the night before or whatever, and that's when all this kind of happened. So I'm going to reverse a little bit. My apologies. So she comes over for dinner. Very nice. She's eating. She's being pleasant. The family's being okay. They're, you know, asking some questions like, what do you do? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he's like, try the soup. And she takes a sip and spits it out. And he's like, ah, you don't like garlic, do you? And she's like, nope. Anyway, she leaves. They basically tell their son, like, yeah, she's like 100% a vampire. Now fast forward to, you know, him freaking out and whatnot. And pulling a cross on her and throwing garlic at her. And she's like, okay, what are you doing? And he's like, garlic, I saw your... She's like, no, I just don't like garlic. It's, yeah, not into it. Anyway. They make out almost immediately, so that's quickly resolved. Good times. Anyway, we find out also through the grapevine that if a stem dies, that's essentially the only way for a vampire to turn back into a human. The only problem with that is they will age up to what their current age would be in that reality. So, hence, if you were turned in the 80s, you'd be in your late 30s, early 40s, etc. If you returned a lot earlier than that, yeah, things aren't going to be too good for you. You're going to basically die. So, time catches up with you, essentially, if you're reverted back. So I guess if you become a vampire, note to self, cure yourself pretty much right away, or just stay a vampire, because otherwise you'll just, kaput. Anyway. Oh my god, I'm getting sidetracked. So, okay, so the garlic... Oh, right, and then there's a story too, well, not a story, but a little side plot of Goody, who runs into a guy she dated in the 60s, who she was, absolutely madly in love with. And he's in the hospital to visit his wife, who has cancer. Obviously, he's older. He's played by Richard Lewis. So, Richard Lewis's age in 2012. Rest in peace, by the way, Mr. Lewis. Anyway, he's there, and he is visiting his wife, and he sees her out of the corner of his eye, and she turns quickly when she recognizes him recognizing her, and he pursues her through the hallway, but she quickly hides, on the ceiling behind, a rafter, so he's like, where the fuck did she go? Obviously, he never had any idea that she was a vampire. He ends up finding her at their place of work, which, funnily enough, considering their food source, is an extermination company. So that's fun. Anyway, he finds them there, and he sees Goody, and he's like, okay, how is this even possible? How have you not aged, a day? And she's like, I don't even know who you are, dude. You might have known my mother. And she gives a fake name or something, and he's like, oh, okay. And she says, yeah, my mom died. So she's trying to, get out of having to deal with that emotional situation right there, and he buys it, and he's like, okay, well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your mother. She apparently disappeared on him when back in the 60s or whatever, and he kind of just didn't know where she went, etc. So he wants to get, I guess, closure on that, but not in a bad way, because he's obviously married and his wife is in the hospital with cancer, and they're dealing with that, so that's a whole thing. Anyway, they end up meeting and talking and whatnot, and they go to a record shop, and he's picking out some DVDs for his wife and whatnot, and lo and behold, Goody gets all those feelings back again, and yeah, good times there. He does eventually find out that she is a vampire, and he's, noticeably a little bit freaked out, and he's like, okay, well, and then he snaps back into, he's like, okay, but where did you go? And she essentially tells him, he was like a what do you call it, a protester type, a rally, whatever you want to call it, fighting the fight in the 60s, I guess, anti-Vietnam stuff or whatever. And she figured, okay, he's at the height of his life right now, and she knows that she can't be with him forever because she's a vampire, she doesn't age, so she sort of just backed out so that he could have an opportunity to find someone who's, worth his love or whatever like that. And she's like, did you find one? And he's like, yeah, obviously I did. So it did work out in the long run. I mean, she has cancer, so that's really unfortunate, but I mean, that makes sense why she took off. So it's not just a cold-hearted, ding-dong ditch. Ding-dong ditch, wow. Situation. There is actual feeling there. And she even says, dude, I would have stayed with you. I could stay with people, know people for about 7 years before, they start to catch on to the fact that I'm not aging. But she would have stayed with him for, as long as she possibly could. Anyway, that's a nice little thing, and they, I guess, become kind of friends. She has the feelers, but he's married, but they're still, they were tight back in the day, so whatever. Meanwhile, Stacy, who had voted once in the 80s, is in the government database. Goody is not. She's too old, but Stacy is, and she gets a subpoena to appear for jury duty in the daytime. That's an issue. 8 a.m. So she's really concerned. She goes to her group and she's like, okay, we gotta figure this out here. And the group therapist, the leader of the, I don't know what you want to call it, what do you call the person at therapy who's like the one running it? That dude essentially says, okay, we need to contact all of the stems that we can and figure out what we're doing. Like, who here has been subpoenaed? And a bunch of people raise their arm. Like, hey, we got to deal with this right now, because that's not gonna work. So the next meeting, every stem was able to be contacted and show up, except for Cicerus, who likes to be a dick and just kind of go and do her own thing. So yeah, that's kind of good. They bring Renfield, who is like a tax guy essentially. So he comes to this group. I mean, he knows about vampires, obviously. He's constantly trying to get them to turn him into one, even though he can't. But he comes to this group and says, yeah, basically I can help you all with your like IRS shit and your taxes. And they say, okay, that's awesome. Even Vadim's there, and he's not a vegetarian vamp, if you will. Well, not vegetarian, they still feed on animals, but he still eats humans. But he's there because he's affected by this too, right? They got to get all their names out of the system. We need a lawyer. And so that's cue Danny, aka Richard Lewis's character. So Danny says, yeah, I'm a lawyer. So basically, he explains the Patriot Act, how the government essentially can access anything to track people if they so desire to. So it's a little more complicated. Basically, well, he goes a little bit paranoid. I don't know the whole ins and outs of the Patriot Act in the States. I really don't. I'm Canadian, if you don't know, so I actually have no clue about many of the laws down there. But maybe it's maybe he goes a little bit to conspiracy land a bit. But he says basically, like, government's listening to you like on everything. So if you use any electronic devices, you know, phones or anything like that, you can be tracked, Wi-Fi, etc. So basically, don't use electronics. And of course, everyone's like, okay, how do we exist? Because they're all modernized a little bit. Goody, though, is not quite as modernized. So she doesn't set timers on her phone for sunrise. She goes by like an almanac, apparently, which comes into play later. They figure out, oh shit, she pulls it out to explain, like, okay, see, this day is this when the sunset, and then she looks and she's like, oh, there's a full solar eclipse coming up. Well, that's convenient, isn't it? Oh, it's 2012. Wasn't there a solar eclipse in 2012? I think there was, right? I don't remember. Anyway, whether it's accurate to real world or just lore accurate, doesn't matter. So they use that opportunity to go to whatever government office they have to go to with all of these stems and Danny, and through Danny's assistance and also with, you know, mind control, vampire powers, they end up erasing everyone from the database. So no more subpoenas, so that's good. So she's no longer dealing with jury duty. That's one more thing out of the way. So that's fantastic, right? All the while, for the past couple of days, Stacy has been sick a little bit, throwing up frequently, whatnot. Lo and behold, her and Joey had made love, and there's a baby in the belly. So she is preggo. She doesn't know this yet. She just thinks she's sick. But Goody wants to figure out. She goes to see Vlad at his... He works at like a bakery or a candy shop or something. I don't know. He's a real sweet old man for a guy who used to impale people through their buttholes and out their mouths. But... yeah, he's into knitting and everything else. But anyway, he kind of explains basically like... Yeah, so... we can't get sick, so I don't know how that's a thing. And he says, does she have a boyfriend or whatever? He's, oh, she's pregnant. And Goody's like, what? We can get pregnant? Oh yeah, but don't worry, she'll be good in about a week or something. You know, the baby won't survive being inside a vampire, so it'll basically just self-terminate and it'll solve itself. She's like, oh, okay. Anyway. She reveals that the sickness to Stacy. So her, Stacy, and Joey and Renfield are all chilling on the couch, and basically it's revealed she's pregnant. She has a talk and says, yeah, so you're preggo. And then they go to the roof and they have a little chat, and she says, listen, your baby's not going to survive. The only way to have your baby live and give birth to a live child is to turn back. And that would mean taking down Cicerus. But how do they do that? Where the hell is she? They don't know where her lair is. She always just summons them to random places. In one part of the movie, I think it's shortly after this scene, she summons them to like a Chinese restaurant, and like all these patrons are just dead. She ate like everyone in the restaurant, so that's fun. Yeah, she's reckless. She's rooting it for everyone, you know what I mean? People are aware that vampires are things. There's even like a newspaper that says vampire attacks, so it's like clear that she is an issue. So they think about it like, okay, well, let's slay her. How are we going to do that? Well, they figure out through watching some game show or something that she's in, I don't remember the name of the tomb. It's in New York. It's probably a famous thing. I want to say Grant's tomb. Is that in New York? I don't know. Anyway, it's a place that most New Yorkers don't even go, apparently, according to this show. And it has a tomb in it, so it's perfect as a lair, right? So, okay, but she's been around for like a long time and survived a lot of crazy things in history. How are we gonna take her down? She's like, aha, well. She goes off on her own, goody, and she knocks on Van Helsing's place. Van Helsing's looking at the video display in front of the house and doesn't see anything. He's like, oh fuck, it's a vampire. It's like, I'm a friend of your son's, like, just let me in. I got info for you. Anyway, she basically recruits him. He's gonna want to kill like a vampire that makes vampires. He was under the impression that basically any vampire can make any vampire a vampire. I just said vampire so many times. Yeah, so he's pretty pumped about that, and she says he has like a wooden stake and goodies. Like, yeah, that doesn't work for stems. You have, like, the only thing pretty much is beheading. He's like, okay, well, I can, we can deal with that too. So he brings like a sickle. He has a little sickle that he wants to bring. That they do bring. Wow, words are really good. Holy candle, calm down. Maybe I should just use light one day, eh? That might be helpful. But no, we're doing candles because it's fun and it fits the mood. I'll just move it slightly. There we go, that's fine. Not that you want to see my ugly mug anyway. Whatever, we're talking about friggin' vampires. So, with Van Helsing's help, they decide to go confront Cicerus at her lair. And lo and behold, they were correct with their guess. And she enters, and they attempt to take her out with an axe, and she just like poof, like teleports, because in some lore vampires can do that, and I guess in this one they can. They show that a couple times too. Even a newbie like Stacy can do the teleporting thing, and they all have mind drill thing. So I guess they get like their powers like pretty much instantaneously, or else not very long. Because yeah, she was turned in the 90s, so she's only been a vampire like 2 decades or whatever. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, or I guess a decade, because 2012 wouldn't give much. Okay. No, 2 decades. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're here. There's a confrontation. Van Helsing attacks. She easily overpowers him, throws him against the wall. She's about to, do him in, essentially, but then Joey comes in with a chainsaw and chains off Sigourney Weaver's head, so that's fun. Not dead, though. Head on the ground, pissed off, the body's wandering around like, what the fuck is going on here? And they throw the head in the tomb, and what's going to happen with the body? Oh, it'll die eventually, like, pretty soon. A couple minutes and it'll be dead. It has to be attached to the head, apparently, or something like that. So they throw in the tomb, and they're kind of, like, celebrating, and lo and behold, the skeleton of whoever is in that tomb, I'm guessing it's Grant, General Grant, maybe? Is it? I correct me if I'm wrong. What tomb is in New York? I swear I thought they said Grant. So anyway, skeleton comes up with Sigourney Weaver's head, or Cicerus's head on it, and she's controlling it, but it's a skeleton, so they just hit it and it falls apart. Anyway, the body finally dies, and Cicerus dies. So I guess if you sever the head and the body have an opportunity to reconnect, but if they don't, then they both die. So she dies. And yeah, Kristen notices herself slowly start catching up in age. But she's only been a vampire for a little bit, so her aging is very subtle. Like, they zoom in on, like, her bum getting, like, a little bit less toned, and, like, her, like, crow's feet kind of slowly, barely happening, but she still looks friggin' young. Like, she's in her 40s, I guess, or something, I think it was. So she's fine. And Goody's aging at about the same pace, but where Stacy stops, she is slowly, continually getting older. And Stacy's like, oh, fuck. You lied about your age. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, think about it. When was the last time anyone named their kid Goody? And I gotta be honest, watching this movie, I was like, Goody is a weird name. But yeah, that's like a name from like the 1800s. So, lore accurate. Goody on them. Okay, that's really stupid. I'm so sorry. Anyway, she basically is like, yeah, I saved my kids. I got to watch my kids grow and have like a full life. They lived to a ripe old age, had grandkids. They lived and grew old and everything. And it's like, it's my time. You know what I mean? So essentially what happened is, back in her day, everyone in the village, like, I guess, was being attacked or something, and there's like a cholera outbreak, I should say, not attacked, sorry. There's a cholera outbreak, and she, I guess, asked Cicerus to turn her so she could stay, holy crap, Candle, calm down, so she could stay with her kids and, like, take care of them, which she did, and they did, and she did. So that was why she turned in the first place. But yeah, again, her kids are dead, her grandkids are dead, and, you know, sticking around any longer than the grandkids is just asking to be caught, so she kind of distanced herself from her family. There's actually a cute scene I forgot to mention where Van Helsing, when she goes to recruit him to go kill Cicerus, he, like, kind of shows her, looks up her family tree or whatever, and says, yeah, here's your great-great-grandson or something. Oh, he's in jail and he's a drug addict, but you've got 3 doctors and someone sitting on, like, the Congress or something like that. So yeah, her lineage did okay. Anyway, long story short, oh frick, I forgot, before they did this, she took Vadim and Danny to the hospital and said to Danny, basically, like, your wife is sick, I can help her, are you okay with, like, changing schedules so you can, you know, she'd be a night person moving forward. But if you're good with that, then yeah, we can hook you up. And obviously he's like, yeah, I just want her to, you know, live. So Vadim turns her and he closes the door, and it's almost like a sexual experience for him, essentially. And even Goody has to knock on the door, like, okay, that's enough, dude. It doesn't take that fucking long. And he comes out and he's like at Danny, like, hey, your wife, you guys are happy, or, you know? It's like, fuck off. Anyway, so that happens. Fast forward back to where we are now. So they say, okay, well, are you you're ready to go? And she's like, yeah, but not here, like, of all places. So they take her to Times Square, and there's like a little montage of showing, like, clips of Times Square throughout, like, the ages. So everything from back in, like, the 90s, the 80s, the 60s, the 50s. Then back where before there were skyscrapers, and they show, like, horse and carts and stuff, and they show her with her 2 kids, like, way back in the day, and she's genuinely pretty happy with how her life turned out for the most part, and is ready to go, and she's getting older and older. And they get her a pretzel, and she eats, like, real food for the first time, and, like, has, I guess when you're a vampire, maybe it doesn't taste as good or something like that. Anyway, she, like, is super pumped about this pretzel, and she continues to age and eventually turns into dust. And sadness ensues. But we don't linger on the sadness for too long, because the very last scene of the film, we cut to the future, the near future, I guess, and it turns out that despite the age gap, like, Joey, I think, is like 25, he said, and she's in her 40s, but whatever. They already, you know, they're adults, they're consenting, whatever. The kid happened, which is lovely, and it shows him and Van Helsing playing, like, peekaboo or something, and the kid snarls, and all of a sudden you see the fangs, and it's like, oh, okay, the kid is in fact a vampire. So we got that trait, and he's like, oh, you got Grandpa that time, startled him. And that's the end. We find out that the child is named Goody, by the way. So she named it after her friend, essentially. And that's basically the end of the film. All's well that ends well, essentially. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at here. Alright, candles are dying here. And I know you don't care about seeing my face, but there we go. Lava lamp light. That's exciting. Why didn't I just do that in the first place? So, what did I think of this film? Well, looking at the cover of it, I went in here blind. I don't like movies to be spoiled for me. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but this, I don't know if it was a hit at all, and it's old enough that I'd never even heard about it. I just thought, okay, Kristen Ritter, Alicia Silverstone, that's kind of fun. Oh, crazy, you got all these other people in here. So that's fun. Yeah, I checked it out expecting it to just be some goofy, like, glam vampire film where they're, basically Paris and Nicole as vampires or something like that. But it ended up actually having heart, which is nice. The story was interesting enough. There was enough going on that it was interesting, but not overbearing. I was able to actually follow it. And essentially my explanation is relatively accurate to the film. So for the first time, I was able to follow it along. So that says a lot about its consistency. So that's fine. There were some humorous little moments in it. The two lead actresses are both fine in the roles that they were in. They're playing vampires who are pretending to be young, living in the world, and they not eating humans and whatnot. So that's fine. They both live in coffins in their apartment, and Stacy's a little bit more of a trickster, so she'll even she'll wake up first specifically to move a table over the lid of Goody's coffin so she can't get out initially. You friggin' got me again. So the dynamic between the two main characters was pretty good. As far as the secondary characters go, I kind of love what they did with Dracula. I'm going to try to make this a no spoiler section, so I'm not going to say anything that I haven't already said in the synopsis. But yeah, I like what they did with his character. It was entertaining. The story itself was it's a comedy, basically. But a comedy with a little bit of heart in it, like the ending there that I'm not going to talk about again, because note to self, stop spoiling things after the synopsis. We want people to know if it's good without knowing everything that happens in it if they want to skip ahead. So, note to self. It's kind of hard to talk without spoilers, though, but we'll do my best. Oh my god, I'm rambling. I'm so sorry. So yeah, all in all, it came together pretty well. Again, I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought it'd be, entertaining for a laugh or whatever. And it was entertaining for a laugh or whatever. But it was a little bit, like I said, it had a little bit more heart to it than I was expecting. The lore that they chose to go with for vampires was, it's different in every vampire story or movie, right? There's so many different lores for vampires that it's hard to say which is actually canon to if vampires really existed or not. So that was fine. There's one scene that's not a spoiler, so I feel I can say it where... Oh, it is a spoiler, so I'm not going to say it. Never mind. Anyway, one of the points where one of the characters reveals that they are a vampire is entertaining, because they're crawling down a wall unnaturally with their legs twisted and everything, and then they look back up and they're like, call me. So that was kind of funny. The humor was pretty good. It wasn't ridiculously dying of laughter humor, but it was enough to make you smirk and go so that's fine. Would I watch it again? Yeah, I might. Not anytime soon, but it was good enough that I wouldn't have an issue watching it again. So if a friend was like, oh, I wanted to see this, I'd say, okay, and we'd watch it. So, it has rewatch value. Not crazy rewatch value, but for the type of movie that I thought I was going into to see it, it was better than I anticipated it to be. Which is usually, that's usually a good thing, right? There's nothing worse than being pumped about a movie and then going to see it and then it's utter dog shite. So yeah, that's that was good. Anyway, long story short, yeah, I kind of liked it. It's not not in my top 10 movies of all time or nothing, but yeah, it was entertaining for what it was, and all around pretty decent. I don't know what people rated it, but now is the time where I give my rating. I don't know. I don't think it's quite a 7. I don't think so. It's fun, but it's not like really, really, really good by any means. I'm thinking 6 point. I don't even remember what I rated other things. So if I put this higher than something that deserves to be higher, oops. Let's give it a 6.43. 2. 1. 6.4321. There you go. Boom. Beauty. That is what I'm rating Vamps. Should you check it out? Yeah, it's essentially for the most part lighthearted. So, if you're not wanting something crazy, you don't want to watch, Saw or like Human Centipede or something, but you want something with a slight hint of like dark cinema, you could go with this. It's like, I'm trying to think how light it would be. Like, it's lighter than Shaun of the Dead. It's lighter than like This Is the End. It's like very borderline family friendly. It is family friendly. There's no gore or anything, so whatever. I mean, look at the cover of the movie. This is what you're getting essentially, just with a little bit more depth than you would expect. So we'll leave it at that. Check it out or don't. I'd say check it out though. It's fun and silly. Yeah, watch it on like a girls' night or watch it with your girlfriend or something like that. It might be fun. They might enjoy it. Anyway, that's all I got. Take her easy.